Hey guys, Kathy Iconis here. Ready to get going on our app demo today. We have Brandon with Bill.com who is going to be telling us all about Bill.com and then giving us a demo of everything. And I'll be in the background answering questions, not answering questions, fielding the questions. If I can answer some, that would be great. Fielding the questions to Brandon when we get breaks and stuff. So feel free to pop those in there. And that's what I got on my end. Brandon, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Kathy. Thanks everyone for joining us here today. We are going to be doing a demo of Bill.com, but first, I really want to talk to you guys a little bit more about the state of business payments as it is today in our industry, and more about the Bill.com approach to payment challenges, because I really want you guys to understand as we go through the workflow, the why we do what we do. We are going to jump into how QuickBooks and Bill.com work together. And then, like I said, we'll go through that high level demo. We'll field some questions throughout. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Do you want me to launch the poll now, or do we want to wait a couple minutes for more people to join?
No, wait just a moment. What I want to do, I'll just sort of preface the presentation by saying, as we move along, feel free to drop any questions into chat at any point in time. Like Kathy said, she's going to be watching some of those. I'll have some stopping points throughout where we can answer some, and if we have some time at the end, we can answer those there as well.
Perfect.
But first, I'm Brandon Roth. I'm the senior manager of technical marketing at Bill.com, which is a really long title that just really means I'm creative and nerdy, and I somehow made a career path out of that. And if anybody's wondering, no, I did not take a selfie from the outside of a jet. I just like to mess with my friends, and especially my mom, who's very gullible and thinks that this stuff is real. So I had a stern talking to when she saw this picture on Facebook. But what I want to do first, let's get to know who's with us. I want to get to know you guys a little bit better. So Kathy, if you want to kick off that poll now, and we'll just give you guys a few moments to answer those.
Yeah, so we've gone with it. Poll in progress for attendees only.
Awesome. And so what
So,
we're asking right now is, are you currently offering AP services to your clients? And if you are you processing those bills manually? Are you offering them and using some sort of automation in your workflow? Are you already a Bill.com partner and using us for your AP services? And or are you considering AP services? Maybe you're not currently offering them to clients, or maybe you're not offering AP services and you're not considering it either. But this is still a great webinar for you because you're going to get a better understanding of the opportunity.
great. We are at 53% voted, so give it a couple more seconds for you guys that are hiding that poll or just, avoiding me. I don't know. To finish up. And 73%. Come on,
Yep,
y'all.
I see him coming in.
Uh, okay, I am gonna close it in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And I will share those results with you.
Cool. So what we're looking at looks like about 62% of you are currently offering AP services and processing manually. Some of you are offering it and using some automation. We don't have any Bill.com customers on the line. That's actually pretty cool. You guys are going to see some
That's
cool new stuff.
right. That's totally strange. I thought we would have some, but
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, totally. Every time I do this webinar, I have at least sometimes it's half, at least half of the audience, and I get to show you some cool new stuff. It's even better now because all of it's new. So, and some of you are not currently offering it, but you're considering it, which is really, really cool. It's a huge opportunity, and we're going to talk about that. So again, I am going to show you a bit about what's new here at Bill.com. We're going to talk about the new interface and stuff like that. But more importantly, I want to talk about the challenges of accounts payable in the industry and what we're doing to solve for them. So the data that we're going to go over real quick here, this was gathered by Goldman Sachs Equity Research. It's regarding the state of business-to-business payments in North America. And what they concluded was that American businesses were spending upwards of $510 billion just to make business-to-business payments annually. And that's a huge number. You kind of have to sort of sit back and think about that for a minute. The primary reason behind it is that 70% of businesses are still making business-to-business payments by manual check. And the average cost to accounting firms to process one invoice is about $22 due to manual process. And so I want to break that down a little bit. The cost is primarily headcount. It's the time it takes to do it. There's fees involved, of course, related to payment processing, international payments, late fees, return checks, things like that. Of course, exceptions you can throw in there, which is a very high amount. This all adds up to that 510 billion. And if you really want to sort of put that in perspective, that's about the annual revenue of Walmart, right? And you think about how large Walmart has become. So it's a huge opportunity for the accounting industry, for accounting firms to grab a piece of this sort of $500 billion pie just by updating the process, to something a bit more streamlined, something more standardized. And so if you think about this in context to the accounting profession, right, and the revenue that we're bringing in as an industry, the entire bookkeeping and payroll market is somewhere between 75 and 100 billion now. And if you add up the revenue of all the bookkeepers, those handling payroll in the US, that's about where we are. That's about where Bill.com sits and most people see us. The firms that say, I'm going to use Bill.com to streamline my AP and make our process more efficient, right? Now, where you might see your firm, those of you that are processing AP, but not using, any sort of automation or technology to do this, you probably see yourself within the entire accounting market, tax, audit, compliance. That market, it's about $200 billion that it's bringing in. And so we're talking about the big four, top 300, all the way down to our sole proprietors, all of those top to bottom, about $200 billion. And so this data is from Goldman Sachs. It's also from IBIS World Research. I always want to put that out there because I want to make sure you understand. You don't have to take my word for it. This has been heavily researched and we're wasting a ton of money. So putting these together, these two numbers that we're bringing in as an industry, it's completely dwarfed in comparison to the amount of money that we're actually wasting just to pay vendors, right? The headcount costs, the processing fees, international payments, late fees, many other factors that add into that. I think a lot of firms aren't really thinking about this because they've had the same processes for a long time, sort of set in their ways, right? And they're more focused on tax and audit, compliance, keeping the books clean, not so much solving business problems for clients, but that's really the biggest opportunity. And so this is what I want you guys sort of thinking about as we move through here. So when we want to put this in perspective, like what does this look like for us? How do you capture value in solving client payment challenges? This is where the opportunity lives. And at the end of the day, we here at Bill.com, we're already working directly with businesses from small business to enterprise level. We're already working to solve this problem and get our piece of the pie. That's what we're here for, right? But hopefully this has piqued your interest too. You can see that for most accounting firms, they're really missing a big opportunity here. And this is a chance for you to get a large piece of it yourself. And I'm mostly talking to those of you on the phone that are not currently handling AP for your clients. This is a huge opportunity for you guys to affect the bottom line for your own business. So the first thing you're going to do in solving these challenges for your clients is you're going to save them money, right? The larger companies, they oftentimes might have a bit more efficiency in place. So this might be closer to $20 or less per transaction instead of the 22 average, but this is an average. Many transactions are costing even more than that. And accountants can reduce AP related costs for small business clients by managing their bill pay process. So this is instant revenue generation for the firm, yet anything you charge a client that's less than $22 per business payment, it's a net gain for the client, right? And it's a service that they're going to value. So money is one thing, right? Cash flow is king for most small businesses, but saving clients time is huge as well, right? Accountants can solve, time-consuming business-to-business payments for different sizes of clients, letting them spend more time on the business, more time on the internal issues. No more, late nights getting vendors paid, weekends in most cases, fees for paying them late, sometimes having to recruit friends or family members to help them get it done. I'm sure some of you guys have had to witness some of that. Cost aside, it's more time they have to focus on what's most important, running the business, supporting and spending time with their families, and not paying bills. So the time and cost savings is good business for us, for you guys, for those of us in the accounting industry. And that's the typical accounting approach, right? But over time, you need to be able to scale and sort of take that to the next level. And that's what we sort of talk about when we say, we want to become a trusted advisor, right, to our clients. So the most important and most valuable solution is to actually help clients gain new insights. Accountants have a platform these days to gather more client data through, AP services, to sell more services, to position themselves as trusted advisors. And just a couple of examples, I mean, you can use AP data to understand how, when, why clients spend money, right? And you can begin to advise them at the business level. You can use AP data across the practice to identify industry and market trends to share with all clients and advise at the geographical and industry level. So when I talk to partners over time, as I've kind of waded through the industry, those that say, hey, we don't really want to get into advisory stuff. I don't know anything about construction, and I do the accounting. I work with the numbers. You don't necessarily have to. That's the best part about it. You don't have to specialize in an industry because you know so much about it. It's really about the data that we're capturing and how you utilize that to give meaningful advice. So this is what leveraging your clients and Bill.com to get a piece of the payments market looks like. And if you leave here with one thing today, not so much how Bill.com works. We're going to do the demo. I'll show you how we solve for these challenges, but even more so is that this opportunity is bigger than the entire accounting industry as a whole, and most people don't really realize that. So briefly, let's talk about what's in it for you. We talked a lot about what the clients get out of it. We touched on some of the value that can be added for the firm. At the end of the day, I mean, if you think about it, the clients really want somebody to take over their AP, somebody that knows what they're doing. And this is where the rubber sort of hits the road for you. When you're a partner with Bill.com, we've created this efficient and profitable way to do it already. We put the guardrails up. So we allow your staff to work faster. We standardize the process and allow you to take on more clients because of it. So Bill Pay as a service, when you add it as part of an outsourced accounting package or in addition to your monthly fee, and not just charging hourly for that specifically, it begins to generate predictable, reoccurring revenue. And it increases the bottom line for you and the client in many different ways. And so, one thing that we've already talked about is that it's creating value for the client, right? They're going to love you for taking this headache away. That's going to open the door for other conversations like, hey, we want to take on your accounts receivable as well, your payroll, your financial close, whatever it is that you see as a financial or a value add to that client. And so there's a number of services you can begin to offer when you have that closer relationship with those clients. It's also going to create stickiness. That's the important takeaway from this. These clients, it reduces churn. As most of you are already aware, it's much harder for them to leave you when you're so ingrained in their business process. And you've become your client's trusted business advisor. And this is what accountants have become great at. It's really one of my favorite things about the profession these days is, the profession has changed or our role has sort of changed in that we're still taking care of compliance and the taxes, right? Those are never going to go away, but we're also sort of adding value and creating more opportunities for us to work with these clients and just make them better, grow their business. So another thing is that when your AP is clean, right, well documented, handled in real time, that's going to save you so much time on the accounting cleanup. So those of you that are focused on compliance and tax, right, when it comes to month-end statement prep or something is coming or someone is coming to perform an audit for you for tax purposes at the end of the year, having clean AP is vital, and it's a core piece to have for having clean books. The last thing, certainly not the least, is the opportunity to gain new clients, right? And once you've shown that you're an expert at handling the bill pay process and other services, potential clients are coming and knocking on your door instead of you having to go out and market and look for them, because they're knowing you within the industry as somebody that can take some of these headaches away. So there's some pretty cool ripple effects that happens when you branch into some of these other value-added services.
And Brandon, I wanted to butt in on one thing.
Yeah.
Coming from me, who I have the audit background, that was one of the first things when I saw Bill.com after I started my practice. I was like, oh, this is going to change audits forever, right? And it auditors might be slow to pick up on some of this, but I'll tell you that if you're utilizing Bill.com and your client does have a financial audit every year, this is going to like cut down on all of the pains that you have when they're auditing the AP process, because it's going to have everything you need that they're going to be reviewing in here. It's just going to make it so much easier. So then your client loves you, and then the auditors love you, and hopefully the auditors charge a little bit less because it's far more efficient.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, Bill.com essentially becomes the sort of virtual check registry where everything's in one place. All of your documents are in one place. You can create a read-only user role for the auditor so they can come in and just knock everything out much quicker, more efficient. Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully they charge you less, like you said. So great all around.
Yeah.
So and that's a great point. And, you know, that's one of the reasons that so much money is being poured into what we're spending in that $500 billion per year, right? Is all the auxiliary costs that sort of pop up because of it, the negative ripple effect from that. So it's not as much about the amount of bills that are being paid, it's the cost to just pay them. And all of that stuff adds up into that. So it's really insane when you think about it, but this is where we are. And this is the industry number, that $510 billion. So again, the report covers the main culprit. 70% of business payments occur with paper checks, and a third of that $1 trillion of inefficiency is due to the manual tasks and processing fees behind them. So if I break that down a little bit, we know that the current process is very paper intensive. You get them in the mail, you have that stack that piles up. You might get to them by month end. You've got to enter them into the accounting system, right? That's assuming that you guys are getting the bills. A lot of times it's the clients. They're getting them. They stack up. They get lost. All the things that sort of come with that process or lack of process. Then you have to go through the approval process, whether it be a memo being sent, an email where you're having to scan it, attach it. Somebody else may need to print and sign it, scan it back, and then attach it again and send it back approved, right? And I can't tell you how many firms that I've worked with in the past that are putting together that bill approval packet to send over to the client, or oftentimes physically driving it out to the client on a regular basis to get approvals or to get checks signed. That's where a lot of this time is being spent. And let's not forget having to file it away, right? Those big, massive filing cabinets that we have to keep on site, of course, boxes for offsite storage, things like that.
It just gives me heartburn thinking about it. And back to the auditor world, how many paper cuts I got going through all of that stuff.
Absolutely. And you know, nowadays there's so many documents that have been stored. There's offsite storage. So you have the auditor come in and you have to go find that stuff in your offsite storage. it's just a complete pain. So now we've gotten through the approval process, right? Once the bill is approved, how do you pay for it? Are you going into your client's bank account to pay it on their behalf? Do you have a login to their Wells Fargo or Chase account or any other bank account? Because that's pretty risky. It's super risky, actually. And if something ever goes wrong, of course, they're going to want to point the finger at anyone else with access because the customer's always right, right? Our clients are never wrong at anything. Uh, Obviously, I'm joking. Are you entering these bills into the accounting system and writing checks, keeping check stock? And I'm asking these questions because they're so common, right? And many of you guys are probably listening right now, nodding your heads because at some point we probably thought to ourselves, there has to be a better way. So we know the payment part is risky, keeping check stock, right? Sending checks in the first place that has the client's personal bank or business bank account information on it. Either way, between misprinted checks and errors, keeping check stock, those of you with not-for-profit clients having to handle the dual signatures and stay in compliance, there's just so many risk factors involved, and those are just a few of them, right? All of that stuff adds up. But the very last piece, of course, that brings us to reconciliation. You have to make sure that all of this information is entered into the accounting system, that it reconciles with the bank accounts. I mentioned exceptions earlier. Exceptions are where a lot of time gets wasted. And in that same report from Goldman Sachs, it's reported that around 60% of invoices have some sort of exception. And they take a minimum of an extra 15 to 20 minutes to work through. And that's minimum. It can be an hour at times. Essentially, when you really think about it, even if your current process is more efficient than that, if it's only 25% of your invoices have an exception, that's still so much of your time that's being wasted. And so where you need some sort of auxiliary process to handle it, some sort of workflow. So as good as you are at AP, you can anticipate that stuff. When it comes down to the reconciliation part of the process, when you're chasing down vendor questions, something doesn't reconcile, something's wrong with the bank account, an auditor comes back, like we said, months later looking for some detail and you don't have it all readily available. This is all part of the old AP process and where so much time and money is being wasted. So I just want to put that out there. I know a lot of us are still paying bills traditionally, but we need to understand what we're solving for. And so that's what Bill.com has done. We're solving for this problem by sort of simplifying it into a 4-step process, which this is what I'm going to be showing you in the demo. Let me just briefly walk you through this, and then we'll jump into it. The first thing that we do with Bill.com is we're going to capture the invoices, right? Every client has their own dedicated email and inbox, and any bill or document can be sent directly to this inbox. So not just bills that need to be paid. You can send contracts, you can send terms and conditions, spreadsheets, any kind of document that you need to, in addition to invoices that need paying, and they can all be stored there indefinitely. So you've got the full audit trail, not just bills that were paid, but anything that you need to keep track of for the vendors, you can keep it all in one place. It works as a sort of virtual filing cabinet. And so now what Bill.com is going to do next is we're going to scan the invoices and we're going to capture the data for you so you're not doing the manual entry. And once this is done, you're simply reviewing the data to make sure it was entered correctly, making sure it's going to the right GL account, making sure the right approvers are set up. So this sort of manual entry of bills process becomes a review process instead, saving a ton of time, and it creates a lot more efficiency because there's a lot less hands that are involved in that process. So then the approval process becomes sort of automatic. The bill is entered, the approver gets notified, they can approve it digitally, electronically from their phone app, or by logging into Bill.com. And clients oftentimes like to be the approvers. They want to see what's happening before it gets paid. So they love this. They can just pull out their phone, they can swipe on the bill to approve it, or if something needs to be changed, they can swipe the other way and say, hey, listen, I'm waiting for another bill, or I didn't receive this product yet, things like that. Very quick and easy to communicate back and forth. So then you get a notification that it's time to pay the vendor, right? And when you go to do that, there's multiple ways that you can do that. Instead of just paper check, they can still be sent a paper check. Don't get me wrong. They can also be sent ACH. They can also be sent international wires where needed. We have a virtual card offering, which is just like using a credit card. So it's super convenient and very secure. And the last piece that really saves time is that Bill.com handles the reconciliation. All of this information syncs into the GL. So creating the expense and the liability, recording the payment, removal of the liability, even the initial setup where we sync over all of the accounts, the vendor lists, the customer lists, all of the information that's already in QuickBooks. So you don't have to transfer that data manually, right? It's such a time saver. And if you update it in Bill.com, it updates in QuickBooks and vice versa. So you can keep all of your lists up to date together. So Bill.com keeps all of this information, a full audit trail of each transaction, who did what, who approved what, edited, saved, and paid, a complete audit trail. And you can even get auditors read-only access, like I said before, let them have this clean and simplified sort of check registry where all of your AP information lives. It's all there. So it's pretty cool. So real quick, I'm going to jump into the demo. I want you guys to really quickly sort of understand how Bill.com and QuickBooks communicate with each other. And it's actually very simple. You know, Bill.com provides a direct synchronization with QuickBooks, which allows you, like I said, to keep the lists, the vendors, customers, chart of accounts, departments, locations, expense records in line with both systems. So when a bill is sent into Bill.com, our intelligent virtual assistant, which I'll show you in a bit, gets to work extracting the bill information. It allows you to simply review and route the bill for approval. And this can then be synced to QuickBooks, creating your bill there and coding it to the chart of accounts. You're going to do that from within Bill.com.
And that automation is pretty new, like the last 6 months or so, of the AI being able to pick up all that.
Yeah, it is. I think the official release, March or April, something like that. It's this year.
Yeah.
So it's very new, and the partners that are using it right now, I was just at QuickBooks Connect and just absolutely raving about it, which was really cool to hear.
Yeah, I was processing stuff earlier. It, yeah, definitely makes things easier. I'm kind of like, wait, it's going a little too fast. Like I just need to like slow down and make sure everything's right. But yeah, it's a lot
Hun-
faster.
100%. I mean, I think the cool part about it is when we talk about automation, this is not meant to take the place of the actual that part of the workflow. You're still 100% in control. The cool part is
Mhm.
it's just doing the manual data entry, and then you're checking it out and saying, "Yep, everything looks good. This looks good. It's going to the right account. Awesome. Click the button. It's good to go." So you can just get through that part of the process of entering bills a lot quicker.
Right.
So once that's done, once the bill is actually approved, it's coded to the chart of accounts, the designated approver or multiple approvers in many cases receive a notification to approve the bill. Once they approve it, vendor credits are applied, payments are submitted within Bill.com, and this information syncs back to QuickBooks to automatically reconcile that payment for you. So the whole point of that process is to have Bill.com's powerful sync sort of become the heart of that cash flow management strategy, right? It's pretty cool the way that they've created that API. So I want to jump into the actual demo. Now that we've talked about what we're solving for and what we're doing in the industry, I want to show you around Bill.com. Let me just kind of move some stuff out of the way here.
Awesome. And while you're getting that all set up, one question that did come in is, do you offer discounts for really high volume? We're talking about potentially 250 bills per day. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I'll say this: we have a pretty standard pricing plan. It's really competitive the way that we have our pricing set up. The best thing you can do, honestly, is just have a chat with one of our account managers, one of our sales executives, and they can walk you through how some of that works. I'm on the outside of the pricing stuff, but I do know that we work with different size companies with different needs all the time. So yeah, absolutely. We can set somebody up with a chat for that.
Yeah, we can definitely connect you with someone.
Yeah,
Perfect.
most definitely. Cool.
Um, The other question was, I don't know if you're familiar with EntryList. They want to know how you guys compare to EntryList.com.
I'm not personally familiar with it.
Me either.
Yeah, that's something I would have to research. I've worked in the industry for so long. I've learned one very valuable lesson is I never speak poorly about any other company. What we do, I'll walk you through how we solve the problem and allow you to sort of compare and contrast. But I personally don't know anything about those guys.
Okay, yeah, me either. But watch the demo and maybe you'll be able to tell us how it's different.
Yeah, exactly. I would look forward to that conversation. So the demo that I'm going to show here, I'm going to walk you through the 4-step process and show you some of the features. But I'm going to show you from the perspective of an accounting firm working with their client. And the client, this particular client is a restaurant. It's the old Train Depot restaurant. Michelle Schiffer, she's the executive chef. She's the owner. She's going to be the approver in our process. She just wants to see the bills that are coming across before they get paid. But Michelle and her vendors are actually emailing and sending in their invoices to Bill.com directly. So I'm going to log in as Max, and Max Wynn is our accountant. He's a staff accountant assigned to the old Train Depot restaurant. You can see when he first logs in, maybe there's multiple locations, so he'd be able to see all the locations here. He could see all the different businesses that he's in charge of for Bill.com for their accounting firm. So right away, when the accounting side logs in, they have this user console. They can see all the different clients that they work with, and they can manage their users, they can manage the staff, education, all of that stuff can be done here. You can see across all of the different businesses, things that need to be done. Max can sort of use this as a checklist. Okay, I need to jump in here. I've got 6 bills I need to take care of here. There's some documents in the inbox. It's all lined up here. It's pretty cool. He gives him an overview of everything that's happening within his book of business. So I'm going to jump into our restaurant here and show you guys around. Very first thing you might notice on the right-hand side is that same to-do list pops up. And these are hyperlinked too. So everything that needs to be done, hey, I've got a denied bill. Michelle had a bill to approve. She sent it back to me. I can click right here and go right to it, find out why. I've got 6 overdue bills that I need to pay. By the way, this is a demo account, so there's going to be lots of overdue bills. Don't mind that. The whole point of Bill.com is not to pay past due bills, right? So we've got 6 bills ready to be paid. We've got documents in the inbox. We've got a couple of overdue invoices. Anything we need to do keeps us on task, keeps us on track. What we're looking at is the overview screen. Probably looks pretty familiar. Most accounting softwares these days are looking pretty similar. It gives you a high-level overview of what's happening. Bills to pay, bills that need approval, payments coming in, payments going out, because we do AR as well. We don't focus on it as much, but we actually do pretty well with AR, recurring invoices, recurring payments, things like that. Little hot buttons. I can create a bill on the fly. I can send an invoice on the fly, all that fun stuff. Top left, got a quick action bar. Drop down, we can see anything we need to do. We can do it pretty quickly. I can enter a bill. I can add a vendor on the fly. Like I said, if I was synced with QuickBooks right now, I could add a vendor here, sync it back to QuickBooks. It'll update the vendor there as well. Send an invoice, add a customer, receive some payments, charge a customer, all that fun stuff. Left navigational bar, pretty familiar, pretty easy to get around. We've got our inbox, we've got our document storage, we've got our AP, vendors, we've got approvals, all that fun stuff is here, and an audit trail. And same for AR, our customer list, invoices, audit trail here. We've got some pretty light reporting functions within Bill.com. Quick access to support, and then you can learn more about international payments, which I'll actually show you as I kind of work through the invoices. I'll show you how international payments and exchange works. Across the top, very easy to search. It's a very intelligent search, so you can find things by invoice amount, invoice number, really anything you can think of as far as keywords. It's going to pull up a list of items that sort of match what you put in there. I can see that I'm logged in as Max. I've got my profile here. I can edit my information, my network of vendors and customers here that are connected, my to-do list, which popped up. If I close it out, that's where I can access it again. I'm not synced to any accounting software right now, but you would normally see a sync button up here, so I could sync to QuickBooks as needed. And by the way, with that sync, you can manually sync it anytime you want. So if you get in here and you pay a bunch of bills, you do some work in your AP or AR, you can manually sync it so that it's almost instant within your GL software. Or it'll automatically sync for you once every 24 hours from the last time it synced. Click on recent, I can see the most recent bills or invoices that I've been in, or vendors. So if I jumped out of something or closed the program, I can jump right back in really quickly. And then settings, where you can customize the experience as needed. Now, Max is not an administrator, so he doesn't have as many options as an admin. But in here, I can, work with my receivables, my user permissions, accounting preferences, how often I receive notifications and emails for different things. You can really customize this out, as well as add certain apps, HubDoc, Expensify, things like that. You can manually import and export information. It's all here, so you can customize that experience. So that's the overview page. We don't really need to dive into it too much, but anything that you see here can be clicked. You can go exactly deeper into it and find out why or where these amounts are coming from. This is the most important part. This is the start of the process, which is the inbox. Now, looking at this, if you guys have never seen Bill.com before, this probably looks pretty familiar. It looks like a regular email inbox. I use my Gmail every day. It looks extremely similar because that's exactly how it functions. I've got my email address right here at the top, which is customizable. I can edit it, but it's unique for every business. So this is the one related to this business. It's usually the business name. I can email invoices to this email address. My vendors can email invoices to this email address. So you want to sort of train your clients and train vendors to begin to do that. That's how we want everything to come in. If they send it to you directly, no problem. You can scan it, you can drag and drop it here, you can upload it directly from your computer. You still have that functionality as well. So everything comes in order right here into the actual inbox. And when I talked about the intelligent virtual assistant earlier, this is one of the most important things. As soon as this came in, IVA immediately began to extract that information. So we can see right here at the top, we started this bill for you. We pulled some information from the document to get you started. So I'll show you that here in just a second and how it pulled the information as I review the bill. But one thing I want to show you, this is really important, is it also recognizes when it's already seen another invoice, the exact same invoice. So it recognizes duplicates as well. And so this really saves you a lot of time and trouble. If a duplicate invoice came through and you just forgot, I mean, think about it. You're not really going to think about it, or maybe the GL system, maybe QuickBooks is going to tell you at some point, but this immediately saves you problems up front.
Yeah, I have one client that she and her staff are very eager to send everything in. And I definitely, yeah, even though the email's copied on it, I get it a couple times, so it definitely helps.
Yeah, it happens all the time because our clients are not perfect, right? So at least we have an intelligent virtual assistant that's going to notice it and say, hey, this might be a duplicate. And if it's not, you can say, you know what, it's not. Maybe it recognized something wrong, or maybe it had two invoices that were different, but they messed up and they put the same invoice number on it. It's going to catch these kind of things to just save you a ton of time and trouble. The other thing you might notice is it pulls in multiple documents. So they send you an email and it has multiple documents that are attached to the same bill. You can keep both of them. You can delete ones you don't need, all that fun stuff. So you can have multiple source documents attached to the same bill as well. Literally a virtual filing cabinet. It's pretty cool. So what I want to do is I want to show you how IVA works by reviewing this bill. This first bill that came in, I'm going to review and save. I could go, more actions. I can add it to an existing bill or anything else that I need to as well. There's so many different options of how you work with this. But as the workflow is intended, the bill came in. This is a bill that we need to pay. Iva picked it up and automatically started recognizing where it's supposed to go. So in this case, this is one that I was actually playing with the different vendors before. So it didn't recognize the vendor here. What I could do is just click on the vendor name. By the way, if I don't have this vendor in the system, I can grab the address. I can do all kinds of things to add the vendor on the fly right here. But I'm just going to grab the name and I'm going to click on vendor name. And it's going to fill it out for me. So I'm not actually having to type that information out. It's pretty cool. So that's done. I've got my vendor. That vendor is already in the system, so I don't need to do anything. It automatically recognized the invoice number, the invoice date, the due date, right? The amount. All of that stuff is automatically pulled over by Iva, and I just have to make sure it's right. Everything looks good. You know, if I'm working with POs and things like that, you can put a PO number in here. We don't have PO functionality in here yet for QuickBooks, but we do have the ability to do the purchase order numbers and actually pay the bills. So we can look forward to some of that later. We can put notes to payers or approvers. We can tag people so they're actually getting notification. Hey, I've got a question about this, things like that. So it makes communication a lot easier, put in descriptions. And the other thing is if I'm coding this particular bill from this vendor to a certain account, every time it comes in, it's automatically going to pull up that account for me, saving even more time. I can also split accounts. If this was a multifaceted bill or invoice that came in and it needs to go to different accounts, I can split it, pull this up, add other accounts as needed, and make that happen. I was talking to an accounting firm at QBC that they've got bills that come in, obviously, that go to like 50 different accounts, you know, just depending on what it is. And so you can actually physically upload that information, upload those accounts, so that you can do that without typing in those accounts every single time. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to split the account on this one. Pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure it's right. Our default approver, Michelle Schiffer, the business owner, she set as the default, is automatically set up to approve this bill. And as far as approvers go, you can completely customize what default approvers mean for each client. You may have clients that anything over a certain amount, $10,000, anything over that amount, they have multiple approvers that it needs to go through before it gets paid. And so if this were over $10,000, it would automatically recognize that and list those approvers there. And every single one of those approvers would have to sign off before it gets paid. Really, really cool. You can have approval groups. Maybe they have a small AP department. So when that bill comes through, anybody in that department can pick it up. Maybe somebody's sick or out of town. It doesn't stop the flow. Somebody else can approve it. It's really cool the way that you can sort of customize that. And if I want to add approvers on the fly, I can do that here as well. Pretty easy. I don't need to do anything. Iva's done the work here. I didn't need to update anything except for the vendor name because that was my fault, and I do that for the demo. But everything's good to go. I can just save it.
And isn't it something like it learns from how you're kind of selecting the different areas on the invoice?
Yeah, that's a great point. So when a bill first comes in, it's really intelligent in picking up the things that it needs to, right? But if there is something that is missing, let's say, you know, maybe it's not pulling in the invoice date, maybe the date just looks funny, or maybe it's not pulling in the amount in this case, right? When you actually click in and update it here and you save it, the next time it sees this bill from this regular vendor that we receive it from, right? Then it's going to remember that next time. So that's a great point. It's actually learning from you and becoming more intelligent as you use it.
Yeah, my newest thing that I've realized is that I'm kind of mad at the vendors that have their name just as a logo because it's not picking it up. I'm like, you should know. Like, I'm like, we need the names now on invoices. I never really worried about that before, but yeah.
Yep, 100%. That's exactly right. So as I'm going through here, like I said, I've already done 2 bills. Here's number 3. Oh, actually, I don't need to split this, so we can turn that off. It's doing that because I always do the split demo. So now it's like, oh, do you still want to split this? Do you still want to split this?
Right.
All of that is good. We've got these other invoices that I can go through and approve. or decline as needed because this is a duplicate. But I'm good to go. I've gone through, I've approved the ones that I need to approve, or I'm sorry, I've submitted the bills that I need to submit. Now they're going to the approver. Now the approver receives a notification via email, or also if they have the phone app, they can get notifications on their phone, and they can log in and approve those. So in this case, we're going to have Michelle go ahead and sign in and approve them here. And this is a pretty cool part of it as well. When the business owner signs in, it'll take them directly to Bill.com. And based on their user permissions and their user level, they only see what you guys want them to see. You guys have control over that as the administrators, as the accounting firm. You have control over what the users can and cannot do within the system. So in this case, Michelle is only an approver. That's it. So when she logs in, she doesn't have the full navigational bar. She doesn't need anything else that's in the program. You guys have limited her scope of focus just to approving these bills. So when she logs in, this is it. I can see all the bills. She can approve them all at once if she trusts the process, right? Most business owners want to go through and actually check them out themselves. So they might jump in piece by piece, compare them. Yep, everything looks good. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and approve that one. Goes right to the next bill. Everything looks great. Cool. Approve the bill. If there is something wrong, they can go and deny the bill. Maybe it didn't catch a duplicate. Usually it definitely will up front, but maybe there's a data entry error. Somebody put something incorrectly, incorrect approver, whatever it might be. All of that stuff can be done here. And they can send that back to the bill submitter. I'll approve a couple here so that we have some to pay. All of this looks good. Yep, I'll approve that as well. So that's what that process looks like. And if she's on the cell phone app, she's literally opening up the app. She's got the list of bills to approve, and she can swipe right and approve them, or swipe left and add notes as to why she's declining that approval. Vendor credits as well. Anything that comes through that she needs to approve, this is where she'd see it. But her job is done. It's that simple. We're going to send her reminders, by the way, on our end, so you guys aren't having to hound her if she's not getting to the approvals on time. We're going to send reminders as well. So we just want to keep that communication going. These guys get busy. They're the business owner. They're doing so many different things to run the business. We'll keep on top of them to make sure that's getting done.
And there are settings in there too that help, that you can decide what kind of notifications that certain people get.
Yeah, 100%. So you can get notifications. You don't need a notification for every single bill that comes through. Maybe you get a notification once a week, or after so many bills come through, that kind of thing. So you're not, having your inbox filled with that information. So now I'm going to log in as Edna Richter, and she, her name's on the sign, Richter CPAs. She wants to be in charge of actually paying the bills, and that's the role that she wants to pay in the process. So she's the system administrator. She can see everything that's going on within the program. So Edna now has a notification that the business owner has approved all of these bills and they're ready for payment, and she can jump right in and do that. She can see the ones that are assigned to her and approve them from here. She can jump right into bills and see them here as well. So we made a couple of changes to this page, and I just want to highlight them real quick because I think they're really cool. One thing that I think is really cool is if you don't have all of the vendor information filled out, and that does happen sometimes, we're going to tell you. We're going to say, hey, listen, we don't have the vendor address. These guys want a paper check, and we don't have the information to send it to them. So we're going to make sure that we're not stopping the workflow, or that nothing is stopping the workflow. We're going to pull out those roadblocks for you. The other thing is you can see the estimated arrival. We've always had that. I just like the way that it's displayed here. You can see what form of payment they're getting and the lead time to when they're going to get it, because we want to make sure that these guys are getting paid on time, right? Here's the due date on the left. We can see when it's going to arrive here on the right. If I hover over any of these vendors, I can see any information I need about them, their preferred payment method. And by the way, if you want to do paper checks, you can do it through a holding account. That's one offering that we have, so that the client's bank account information is not displayed when the vendor receives it. It comes directly from Bill.com instead of the actual client. So really cool, some of the security features that we put in there. Again, I can pay these bills all at once. I can pay so many at a time. I showed this at QuickBooks Connect, and a lot of people really like the fact that you can bulk pay in batches. So maybe I want to pay certain bills on the 1st of the month, and maybe I'm going to pay the other bills on the 15th of the month, because that's the way we decided to set it up. You can really customize that process however you need to do it. In this case, I'm just going to pay one. So I'm going to jump in here and actually look at the bill, make sure it's good. Again, I have control over this. Everything looks good. Happy with it. Review and pay. We get an actual summary. Again, this is late because it's a demo. We're going to pay it. And then we get our actual confirmation that the payment has been scheduled. Everything we need to know about it right here. If this is a paper check that they prefer, but they would like to switch to ePay, we can switch to that as well, set that up from here. It's pretty cool. So that's how the payment process works, from receiving the bill to submitting it, approving it, and paying it. Really, really quick and easy. I went a little bit more in depth, but this process should take a lot less time.
Right.
For those that have high volume, this you could probably see how this could cut back on so many different issues that pop up in between. That's really what it's all about.
So I have some questions in here. Can you explain the difference between Bill.com and Bill Pay for QBO?
A little bit. So Bill Pay for QBO, I'm not as familiar with. The main thing is Bill.com has the entire workflow built in, and that's the most important part. The actual user roles and being able to have that approval system to go through, and then also the many different payment options that you have besides just cutting a check. You know, being able to do ACH, the card offering, international wire transfers, things like that are all built into Bill.com as well. Are you as familiar with it?
I've never actually used Bill Pay because my clients were already on Bill.com when it came out.
Yeah,
But yeah, the same thing I've heard is not a sophisticated approval process. So if you do need that, and then yeah, like I'm assuming there's going to be issues on how many users can come in because it's all within QBO, so you're going to be more limited that way.
correct.
But if you, I almost want to say a watered down version, um, it could be, it depends on the client if that's a good solution or not.
100%, and I think it mostly depends on the size of the client too, right?
Right.
If you're only paying a few bills a month, then a smaller solution is going to be probably okay. But it really depends. You know, as you have more vendors that you're paying, more bills that you're paying on a regular basis, as that volume picks up, then having this sort of workflow is way more efficient in the long run.
Right. And can you split the bills by a percentage?
I don't know that I've actually tried that.
I know I've done the math in cells before.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we take a look at one? You know, some of the functionality on splitting bills is pretty straightforward. So we have it set up by amounts here. And so I think if you're going to do it by any sort of percentage, you're going to need to do that sort of math yourself. But you can set it by certain amounts to different accounts. And then
But I
really at
think,
the end, go ahead.
yeah, like if you did the 550 in there times 0.5, I think it would do the math for you if you tab through it, but that's, I think.
I don't know. Hey, it's worth playing with, right? So 550.
Yeah, times zero point 0.5 or whatever. You got to do
Oh, yeah,
times.
see, yeah, it's not letting you do that. So
Oh,
it's
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 not.
just going to be, yeah, it's just going to be the amount. That's a
Okay.
cool question though. I think you know, we're always innovating the way that those things are split out and processed and some of the different features within Bill.com. But as of right now, you're just going to enter the amounts. So you're going to
Yeah.
put in the amounts that go there. And that's the important thing too. Like intelligent virtual assistant that we have built in is learning as you're doing these. It's going to learn from the amounts right now, and it's going to pull those where you need to go. So I can put in the 550 if I want to do, the menu design goes here, but maybe our marketing costs, the 250 goes to a marketing sales account or expense account rather. You can do it that way. That's what it's going to remember. So no percentages yet.
And another question, will this sync with QB Desktop as well as QuickBooks Online?
Yep, absolutely it does, which is really, really cool. It's the first desktop program I think that I've seen in my history where you have that almost full two-way sync. But again, it's a manual sync. You're clicking on the button to make that happen, to update that information into QuickBooks Desktop. But you can keep your vendor lists, your customer lists, all that stuff updated in both places.
Cool. Next question is, does the bookkeeping accounting firm using this for clients have the ability to use it for their firm as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, most of the firms, I can't say most of the firms, many of the firms that we work with that are partners with us, they're often using it for their own firm as well, because they start using it for a client and they see the value of having that process go through our workflow. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have it set up for my firm. So um, this one is a little longer. In Bill.com, what is the effect of having regular recurring bills on auto draft from the client's business bank account versus forcing the business owner logging onto Bill.com to approve the bill payments?
That is a long one. I would say probably that one, let's take that offline and ask one of our support team, like what the main differences are and how they work.
Right.
That's not something I'm more familiar with.
And my response to that is obviously Bill.com is not going to be the right fit for everyone. If the client is small enough where they have recurring transactions or something like that in their bank, it might not be necessary for them. Now, if they're starting to worry about cash flow and that sort of stuff, maybe you need to have a more um, drawn out process where Bill.com can come in. But even I think of anyone that has a lot of bills. So I have some clients that just pay everything by credit card, so they're not necessarily the great fit, you know? But anyone that pays a lot of bills and has to handle a lot of bills, this is just going to change their world.
Yeah, absolutely. And by a lot's not really a number. I mean, it really just depends on the complexity of the
Yeah,
workflow as well, right? Who do they want involved in the process? Who do they want approving it? It's really scalable as to who does what.
right. And the amount, I mean, yeah, because this could really work for a huge company and go down to a small company. It's just a matter of there's the user permissions can be so granular on things. It's pretty interesting.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, is there a partner program with Bill.com if I manage books for several businesses, small businesses?
Absolutely. So we have a partner program and we have a console, which I showed you in the beginning, where you would manage all of your users and all of your clients and all of that information in one place.
Yeah. So, and it almost doesn't it like white label it? So, at least mine does still.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I think if I go with Edna here, I can. Um, I don't know if she does. I know Max does. So let me log into Max. I have so many different users here. There we go.
And one thing I would say, I set mine up just a little different, and that's the benefit of this. You can set it up however you want. I don't like touching my client's cash, so I actually set it up where I'm the approver. So if I have staff that's entering in transactions, I would approve their work. And once it's approved, I tell my client, hey, you can go and pay your bills. And it's just,
Yeah, yeah.
they just log in and pay. And, that's all they have to worry about. So, and back to if they have cash flow issues, I don't know what they're doing with their debit card. Um, they can they can handle all of that over there. But I'm making sure we have the nice backup, everything's taken care of. I'm the bad guy when I'm like, I don't pay off of statements. I need the invoice. All the crazy things that come with AP.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as you were talking about that, I pulled up my profile with the firm. So I've got Richter CPAs up here on the top left. I've got the full console. I can see all of the companies that we manage with Richter CPAs, and I can edit, how they're being billed and all that fun stuff here as well.
Yeah, and so there, when your clients log in, they're going to see that logo
Yep,
and not I mean, they know it's powered by Bill.com, but yeah. Um, so that brings us to the top of the hour. Um, I guess any other questions we can take care of offline, but Brandon, thank you so much for your time and giving us this demo. There is so much to Bill.com, and like I've been using it since almost the beginning of my practice, so 9 years, I would guess. Um, so yeah, we'll be sending out an email after this. You'll have access to the video. And if you guys have any questions or anything, let us know. We can make sure to connect you with someone at Bill.com to help you out.
absolutely. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send them over. We didn't even get into international payments. We didn't get into the audit trail. There's so many things involved with Bill.com that we didn't even touch on today. So reach out. We'd love to answer your questions and happy to show you around a little bit more in depth with Bill.com. Thank you so much for having me, Kathy.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And have a great day, everyone. We'll talk to you later.